You know that feeling of I'm trying to manifest but nothing's happening? Manifestation is not creating a fantasy and then waiting for it to come true with no action from yourself.
Leading neuroscientist,
best-selling author,
Dr. Tara Swart.
We cannot undo a negative thought pattern. We have to overwrite it with a new one. Your brain, it's 2.5 times more strongly wired to avoid risk than it is to get a reward.
Wow.
The #1 health and wellness podcast.
Jay Shetty.
Jay Shetty.
The one, the only Jay Shetty.
For so long, ancient wisdom and the wisdom of the East especially has been seen through two lenses. I think there's been a lot of enthusiasm towards it and a lot of value and reverence. And at the same time, I think there's been, as you say, skepticism and cynicism around it. And so to have someone with your caliber, your research, your insight, and communicating in the way you do, I think is such a great blessing and benefit for the industry in and of itself. So thank you so much for the work you do.
Thank you.
Really means the world. But let's dive straight in. And if you hear me and Tara lock into some, what would I call them? Inside jokes, because we're both North Londoners, then just please roll with us. But Tara, I wanted to start off with, where did you and why did you get so passionate about this work and finding the parallels between ancient wisdom and modern science? And why did that work call you?
As you know, I grew up in North London and I was the oldest child of first-generation immigrant parents. So I always felt like I was bridging two worlds. You know, I went to school, I didn't have any Indian friends, and I just wanted to fit in with my friends. And then I would come home and obviously we would have like the altars and the incense and the ceremonies and the rituals and everything. And so, yeah, I would say for most of my childhood, I was living in two worlds. And then at the age of 18, I went to medical school, and I think I moved very much away from our cultural heritage and just lived like a teenager and someone in their 20s at university. And I was at university for most of my 20s because I did medical school and a PhD, so 9 years at university. Around the time that I became a doctor, yoga was becoming quite popular in society. So I sort of returned to that, and I would say that reignited my interest in our cultural heritage. But then still, I would keep it very separate from my work. So I was working in the NHS. You know, that really wasn't very holistic. But at home, I was eating in an Ayurvedic way and doing yoga. And some time passed, and these things came more into our culture anyway. But still, at the time that I wrote the source, it was a risk for me as an MIT professor to start speaking about manifestation and visualization and meditation and things like that. But writing it really, for me, actually brought those two things together and made me think, I don't have to keep my personal life separate from my professional life. And I have to say thank you to everyone that the response to it then, you know, took that even further. As we were discussing, you know, we both had books out around that time, couldn't really do world promo because of the pandemic. But very early on in the pandemic, I thought, oh no, there's going to be a huge mental health crisis. And it was so unprecedented. I thought, what can I offer that isn't already available to people? But I will caveat that by saying I think all of the ancient wisdom knowledge that I try to apply to modern mental health problems it's just things that we've forgotten. It's not anything new, but it's about bringing, you know, finding those things. It's like gold mining and bringing them to people and saying, this could really help you.
It's fascinating that all of these things have been practiced for thousands and thousands of years. And ironically, we've also had mental health and anxiety challenges for much longer than we believe we have. And I often think of the Bhagavad Gita and Arjun, which, you know, was spoken 5,000 years ago, but that experience that he's having on the battlefield is anxiety, stress. He's having a sense of a loss of identity. He's worried about the surroundings and the impending war that's about to take place. And so you see that in a text that's 5,000 years old. And then you have all of this wisdom that surrounds it, but being able to translate that into what's happening now is so needed. And I guess that's why you had that positive response.
Yeah, and what I found really interesting is that it would be one thing if you and I sat here and talked about our own cultural heritage. But what I found is that if you look at the ancient Greeks, ancient Egyptians, Babylon, and, you know, all sorts of other ancient cultures, the first Americans, that there are so many similar themes of the things that
I
keep
agree.
us healthy.